Let's look at the construction industry. Can you take us through a trip of how the construction industry in Nigeria has evolved from 1960 until now? What has been the significant changes?
Okay. There's no doubt that the Nigerian construction industry has failed relatively. It has done what so far so good, the best it can do. And the practitioners have made their own significant inputs. And but we all know that there's a huge gap in infrastructural development in the country. That does not mean that we cannot give credit to the practitioners over the years that have done their own bit. However, it is a pitiable situation that up till now there is no clear-cut modalities for advancing our infrastructural needs. It is quite painful because we understand the pains we all go through in this deficit. It deepens poverty, there's no doubt about that. Take, for instance, your roads. If your road is bad, you have to ply this road every now and then. It will cause damages to your car. And the money you ought to use for that basic need of existence, living, you subject that to repairing of cars. You see, these things, this gap in our infrastructural needs is creating poverty, deepening poverty. So we have a very delicate situation in our hand that needs to be arrested immediately. So we need to chart a new course. Fine, from 1960 to date, yes, we've recorded some significant projects here and there, but by and large, we have a huge problem in our hands in terms of infrastructural deficit in the country.
Let me modify the question Blessing asked earlier, and I'll put it this way. How will you assess the level of growth in terms of quality and quantity, the level of advancement when it comes to construction and infrastructural development in Nigeria, making emphasis on the level of quality and quantity?
Okay, on the basis of quality and quantity, quality, okay, we can give ourselves a fairly pass mark, because honestly speaking, the truth about the matter is that we have the capacity. The Nigerian professionals in the built environment, they have the capacity, because even most of this project that has been executed by multinationals, they were designed by Nigerians. So in terms of quality, yes, we have quality projects. That does not mean that we also do not have poor quality project. As much as we have good quality project, we have poor quality project, because here of cases of incessant collapse of building structures, you hear of roads that were done in less than 5 years. They are bad. You see potholes here and there. Yes, they all boil down to poor quality. So I think that's where we need to, the professionals in the construction industry, we need to really put our eyes on the ball. We need to really, come out in full force to exert the power that the laws, the act that establishes professional bodies regulating the practice of these professions in Nigeria, the act that establishes us has given us a lot of powers. But you see, it seems we're always looking for somebody to do our job for us. Yes, permit, with all due sense of respect to the various professional bodies, they've been doing a lot of jobs, trying to sanitize the system, but a lot still need to be done. A lot of sanctions still need to go on. This paddy thing must stop. It must stop. we need to start meeting out sanctions to any contractors, any professionals, severe ones, so that we can spend money, public money on infrastructure, and in the few years is damaged, is bad due to poor design, poor quality management, poor workmanship, as the case may be, varied regions. All boils down to human errors. So we cannot continue to tolerate that. For quantity, that one is a quantity. We are definitely not there yet. There's an issue, big issue with that. There's a big issue. There are no roads. We can't deceive ourselves. If you fly some roads in recent times, you will cry. Sometimes you begin to wonder. These days I have a phrase that sometimes when these guys, these foreigners tell you that the Africans, they live like monkey, or the way they see it, or just the one US president the other time said about something about the country, about Nigeria is a funny country also. You see, it's because of the lack of these infrastructures. The quantity is not there. We need the quantity. The quantity is definitely lacking. The required quantity we need is lacking. They are not there. You have huge housing deficit. A lot of people are homeless. Sleeping on the street. I was watching a program which day. I saw a woman with 2 children on one of these WhatsApp group, living on top wooden. If you look, my heart almost skipped. I was wondering, what of if these children, newborn children, fall inside the water? The platform, the floor of their house, the water, the structure is a wooden structure suspended on water, and the floor is wood, made of timber, with a lot of gaps. And you see the timber, they are weak. They can give way at any time. Unless you see children running on top of that. My heart almost skipped. I said, God, what is happening here in Africa? So fundamentally, in terms of quantity, there's a problem. And it needs to be addressed drastically. We need a strong plan to address these issues.
All right. The report has that Nigeria government would need an average of $13 to $15 billion annually to meet the infrastructural deficit that exists in Nigeria. But we do know that regardless of that, government embarks on one project after the other yearly. But bringing us back to the issue of quality, we see that roads that have been constructed maybe a year ago, sometimes even 6 months after the time, it's failing already and is even needing maintenance or construction. You've talked about enforcing sanctions when necessary, but let's also look at the scale, the capacity of some of the construction companies. How do we tackle that beyond just enforcing sanctions?
Okay, if you look at it, it all still boils down to, because like I said earlier, there is no doubt we have the manpower in this country. We have the best of brains to undertake any project in this country. But what is lacking is that aspect of clear rewards and clear sanctions where the case arises. Because somebody does something today wrong, he is not penalized. Because whether you like it or not, human nature, we want to be spoon-fed. We want the easy way out in life by human nature. Almost every human being, if you give them the opportunity, they want to sit down this morning, drink coffee, wash, just enjoy your life, get free money. But you need checks and balances to keep people on their toes. So if somebody does something wrong today and he doesn't pay for it appropriately, there's no consequences. The propensity to repeat that same thing, especially if it does it wrong, and probably because when you do quality jobs, poor quality jobs like that, in most of the cases, the contractor would have gained above the normal profit they are supposed to gain. Yes, yes, because there is something which resources need to be committed to, that need to be done, perhaps that was not done, that led to that poor quality job. And that resources is somewhere. Somebody has gained from it. So if that person gained from it and you didn't penalize that person for that wrongdoing, tomorrow the person will want to do it and gain more like that. So it still boils down to, proper regulation. We need to do our jobs. Everybody in the construction industry, the 7 professions in the built environment, we need to come out in full force to do our job, because we should not leave it. What I believe is that I tell my colleagues, we shouldn't leave this thing for the government alone, because you look at it, we all want to leave this thing for the government. We say that the government regulators to do it alone. But we, as the professions in the industry, we've been mandated by law to regulate. So we can pick this up. When we notice things like that, pick it up, and we are applicable, initiate prosecution processes against poor quality jobs. That is most cases where you notify the contractor and they fail to come and rectify the errors. Then you initiate the prosecution processes. So we must. Okay, I was watching a video recently where the Minister of Works, His Excellency Senator David Umahi, he went to one inspection, I think somewhere in the Southeast. He was talking to a contractor that giving money over 400 million. The contractor did poor job. He even told the contractor on live television that he should be ashamed of himself for the poor job he has done. He told the contractor that the previous 400 million they've given him, that they can let that one go, slide, but need to come back so that they will look at the contract again and decide on it, that but the first one they can let it slide. But if the contractor thinks he wants to make trouble, they will give him trouble. For me, I was like, somebody giving 400 million naira, you can text right there that he has probably squandered the money, and you are saying they will just let that 400 million naira slide. You can imagine that. So what will that man do the next time? Perhaps he will do worse, because he will think that the next minister will come and say, okay, we will let that one slide too. So the bottom line is that I will keep emphasizing this. We must mete out sanctions to those that have done poor jobs. If they refuse to rectify their poor jobs, for those that did well, we must encourage them. We have a number of Nigerian contractors, multinationals, doing fantastically well. We must continue to reward them. And that does not mean that the Nigerian government should not find a way, and the professionals should not find a way to improve the capacity of professionals of the construction companies, because we need to have these companies running. So many of them, especially indigenous ones, we need to have them on board to develop capacity, because take it or leave it, I strongly believe that for us to advance significantly, a lot of our infrastructural development must be undertaken by us. We must take charge of it. That is my belief. We must take charge. That will have a multiplier effect on the economy of the country. That is my belief, absolutely.
All right. Talking about Minister for Works, I would like you to intervene on this ongoing debate between the minister and some of these construction companies about the use of concrete, for road construction versus the use of asphalt. The minister is insisting that it has to be concrete, while the construction companies are saying they've invested in asphalt. Talk to us. What do you think will be the way forward? And then talk to us the advantage and the disadvantage of concrete versus asphalt construction.
Okay, honestly speaking, I must give credit to the minister, because I think in recent time we've seen that this government has come out with a very, very decisive policy on infrastructural development. We must acknowledge that about this government, this administration, and we have no other option than to support the government. Yes, the government means well. The government means well to say yes, because truly concrete lasts longer than asphalt, as much as 4 times the lifespan of asphalt. So for me and you, looking at the maintenance culture here, if we have an issue with maintenance, that means we should have a strategy for the now to, overcome the lack of maintenance structure we have, system we have. What do I mean here? Concrete lasts longer. If we use concrete, the roads will stay longer. Meaning, if they are well done from beginning, from the onset, we will not need maintenance for a long time. So while we are grappling with trying to enhance our maintenance system structures, our roads are good for us in many years ahead. So for me, it is a very, very welcome development. I'm particularly very happy that Mr. President made His Excellency Senator David Umahi the Works Minister. In short, when I saw that, I was very glad. I say, yes, Mr. President means well for this country, because we all know the antecedent of David Umahi. Right from a very young age, he has been a strong developer. He has strong history about project development, fantastic project development, even as a governor. So for me, it's a very welcome development. Okay, now to address the issue of the contractors that are complaining about the investment in the asphalt. Yes, change, of course. There's no change in the world that is not difficult to accept. This one is one of it. What we will appeal to the government is they have to come to our aid. Because the truth is that if they box up, because some of us are still, there are still a lot of obligations we need to offset regarding our investment in this asphalt facilities. So if no asphalt roads to do, no projects, how do I offset the outstanding obligations to creditors in terms of outstanding asphalt facilities that were acquired? We need to get money to do that. So I think it's something the contractors, they need to engage the government. We need to engage the government. We need to discuss, it's a frank discussion to find a way out. I have no doubt in my mind that the minister is a fine gentleman. He understands the rules. He was a strong private industry person, so he knows the pains of the contractor. So I think discussions are ongoing, and I see a very, very clear-cut and beneficial resolution, a win-win for all the stakeholders. So I think that basically no issues about that for now, because discussions are ongoing, and we'll come out of it for the better for the nation and the contractors and all stakeholders.
All right, picking it up from the appeal to government, let's look at government's role in ensuring the growth of the construction market, because the construction market size has been valued at $135.9 billion in 2022 and is projected to have an average annual growth of 2% from 2024 to 2027. But what are the factors that challenge contractors, that challenge contracting companies in this area, and that will make it impossible to achieve this growth? Because we know the enormous benefits of the construction industries to Nigeria's economy.
Okay, especially if you want to look at the, like you mentioned, the challenges confronting contractors. Most of these challenges really has to do with indigenous contractors, because the multinationals, they have access to a lot of capital. In short, in the Western world, there are a lot of dormant capital. They are just looking for the right environment to channel their funds into their resources. And once you create that platform, you're as good as done with good and easy capital. So for me, I believe the government still need to, like, if you look at the 8-point agenda of this administration, they mention access to capital. Access to capital. So for me, is a very, very, if you look at the 8-point agenda, it seems the man understand, Mr. President understand he knows what is coming for. He has set his goals, clear-cut goals. And I believe if they follow them through, it's going to be create a very robust environment for the country. So the government need to provide more access to capital, and even the construction companies as well, especially the indigenous one, they need to leverage on existing opportunities around the globe, because look at what is happening with the startups. You see a lot of venture capitalists, angel investors coming to invest. Even the construction companies can do so. Go around the globe, look at capital availability in the necessary climes environment in the world. So we just need to deepen our efforts as the government in terms of supporting contractors. They need to deepen their effort as contractors in terms of having access to capital to be able to build capacity, have the requisite plants, equipment, personnel, workforce, training, knowledge base. For us to acquire this, we need to do a lot more. We should not rest on our oars. Then for in terms of spurring the growth now, investment in the infrastructural development, the government, that's why I'm particularly happy. Yes, a lot of people will shout, why they remove subsidy? And I tell people, I say that if this man does not remove subsidy, he will just go there and be sleeping and drinking tea, grappling with how to manage Nigeria. So for me, there's a lot of money now for the government to spend in infrastructure. So I expect that they will really, really put money in the industry, in the sector. The government should increase spending on critical infrastructures. So I think, by and large, if the government does that, increase spending, while the contractors on their own, improve on their capacity, make sure they do the right things, it's going to be a win-win for the contractors and the government and the citizens as it is, because they are the ultimate beneficiary. If these things are there, if the government does what it needs to do, the contractor does what it needs to do. So the citizens are the ultimate beneficiary of these infrastructures. So for me, let the government increase spending. Thank God they have money, a lot of money from subsidy removal now. So they have money, no excuse. They have money to spend. Open up a lot of revenue generation, on tap revenue generation avenues. Open them up and get this money and pump into. Because when we say Africa, Nigeria, we're underdeveloped. What do we mean? That the infrastructures are not there. The railway system is not there. The trams, the metro lines, they are not sufficient. The telecoms, name it. The road network, the schools, they are not there. So we need a massive investment on this, on infrastructural development.
Let me take you up on what you said earlier about the capacity of local contractors and engineers. You talked about their capacity, but you realize that that industry is dominated by the foreign players, the big players, even when it comes to public infrastructure, superhighways, even government contracts. You see these big players, I don't want to mention names, they are dominant. So why do you keep having this reoccurrence if you agree with me that the local contractors are capable?
You see, in my undergraduate thesis, I'm very particular about your question is something that is very dear to my life, to me as a person. In my undergraduate thesis, I worked on capacity building of indigenous contractors. Even in my postgraduate at master's level, it's the same thing I was talking about, because it's believed that the multinationals are more mechanized. I dwell on that too. For me, yes, I've watched a lot of state governors, government officials, they make mockery of indigenous contractors. I won't mention a particular governor now. He's ex-governor, he's a minister. I've watched him when he was commissioning a project, was talking about indigenous, was just making general, about this indigenous contractors not having capacity. And I weep. Why do I weep? If we really want to grow as a country, the government need to make deliberate effort, deliberate effort to build the capacity of indigenous contractors. If I'm made a governor today or the president of this country, the first thing I will do is to enact a law. So I will set up a special court for contractors. Special. People are clamoring for special court for election petition. The same thing I will do for contractors, indigenous contractors. I give you a project, and there is stories. It will be like the people who talk about the Chinese case. It's not stories. You will pay for it. If we do that, you will see the capacity we grow. It's in the best interest of this country, if the government is sincere, it's in the best interest of this country to build the capacity of indigenous contractors. Otherwise, we'll be joking. We will be joking, I'm telling you. So, yes, the indigenous contractors, they have their problem. Contractors, they have their problem, their issues. But the onus lies on a strong policy of the nation. There must be a national interest. Look at most of the countries all over the world. Look at China. They don't need anybody to come and build anything for them. So when they are quoting for a job, they know nobody's coming to tell them a job of 2 billion is 500 billion. Nobody, domestic technology. For me, I see that any country that is desirous of growing, developing at a very rapid level, you must grow with your domestic technology, engineering. So the government must be deliberate about building the capacity of indigenous contractors. Set up special courts for the contractors. We give you a job, and you messed up, you have a strong case to answer. There's no stories about it. Thank God Mr. President says he's going to fight corruption, the rule of law. No stories. If you afford one thing, it's there, it's crystal clear. We tell you, do this, do asphalt road, so quality. If I come and test it, it doesn't mean the quality that's in the contract terms. I took your work to the lab, doesn't meet. No stories. No stories. If there is deviation, I tell you, do grade 25 concrete, you go into do grade 15 concrete. For me, I test it, doesn't mean the required capacity, grading capacity. There is no stories. No stories. So for me, the government, I keep shouting the government, we must be sincere about developing this country. We must be sincere. The government must be sincere. So the president, the governors at all levels, the local government chairman, they must have strong policy in place to guide indigenous contractors, give them jobs, even train them as the case may be, engage them in training. Because if we wait for multinational that must come and do our project, okay, we'll just be there. Because I've not seen any home that will be better built than the owners of that home. Any family that will be better built than the owners of that family, the owners of that home. I've not seen it. Even they will tell you every now and then, the West, they will tell you that your people, you are the people, the Nigerian people, is your responsibility to do your job and develop your country. So for me, the government must come out in full force to encourage indigenous contractors.
All right. As a follow-up to your question, you're advocating for or advocating the use of special court, and I put this to you: why do you need a special court when the conventional court could undo it? It's not the absence of law, or absence of court or whatever it is instrument needed to address all this. Why do you need a special court? Because that was what you said earlier. When the conventional court could handle this, and what will that be? How will it work?
Yes, the conventional court. Perhaps you see we've seen cases where judges will say no this, no that for them to sit, no enough infrastructure. So for me, I think the special court will be designed in a way that it will expedite the processes of prosecution. We don't need this 20 years case in court. This elaborate will take the God knows when of a time in the court. No, we don't need that one. See what is being done to the election petitions. They give them a time frame, 6 months. It's expected that some cases they will say 6 months. It should be done with. It should be done with. Yes, we should develop something like that. A time frame. You expedite action. Not you will be there drinking. They will be there in the court. The contractor will be flying around the world. Today we say he's going for medical vacation, one thing in the US. So tomorrow he says doing this story. The judge will go for vacation. Story. No, we need expedited action. The case of infrastructural development deficit in this country is a case of life and death. Why do I say this? Do you know how many people dies on Nigeria roads every day due to poor road network? Do you know how many people dies every day in the hospital due to lack of good facilities? Do you even information? Do you know how many people die because of lack of access to good information that will save their life? So if you look at it, the issue of infrastructural deficit is a matter of life and death. It's not something we should treat with kid gloves. For me, it's the most pressing issue this country has. That is why I'll repeat this. That's why I'm particularly happy that Mr. President made His Excellency Senator David Umahi the Minister of Works. Okay, I want to give that man the benefit of that he will do a revolutionary job in that sector. So for me, that's why I believe that there should be a special court to shorten the time frame in the processes, the prosecution processes that it affects these area contractors.
Okay, still looking at local content and local contribution towards the construction industry. Let's look at locally sourced materials for construction. For instance, bitumen. Now, a lot of bitumen used for construction, reports still has it that they're imported, but we have, this can be found in some states in Nigeria. So how do we develop local capacity, not just for the construction companies, but for the construction materials?
I will keep repeating government. That does not mean that individuals as Nigerians, we don't have our own input, because we need to deepen our knowledge. No doubt about that, because it's a collaborative effort. The government cannot do it alone. Even as scientists, as researchers, as technologists, we need to do our own bit to support the government in terms of identifying new local materials, enhancing local materials, utilization of local materials. We need to do a lot of job about that. There's no doubt about that. However, the government too needs to support these ventures. Okay, you mentioned that we have a lot of bitumen deposits. What stopped the government? Because if you look at most of these Chinese companies that are in Nigeria working, a lot of them are being sponsored by the government. A lot. They get subsidies, they get support. In short, most of them are state-owned companies. Most of them you see in Nigeria, these Chinese companies around the world, they are state-owned companies. So it still boils down to the sincerity of purpose of the government.